So let's go ahead and start. So of course, this is the Eightfold Path to Inner Strength. And let's see. And just to review the Four Noble Truths, would one of you like to talk about the Four Noble Truths briefly? Or would you like me to?
I can do it.
Okay. So the first truth is the knowledge of suffering. The second is the origin of suffering. The third is that there is a cessation of the suffering that's possible. And the fourth is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. And so this class, of course, is focused on the last one, the way leading out of the suffering, which of course is called the Eightfold Path. Oops, backwards. So then I thought we could just do a review of the eight. And for this presentation, I've grouped them into three categories: wisdom, ethical conduct, and the last one is the mental discipline. So for the first two are associated with wisdom. And so for the first, right view, that's an understanding of the nature of reality. And that's what we worked on last week. Anyone remember what that involves, that the nature of understanding reality? We talked about like three different aspects to it.
Yeah, it seemed like one aspect was more ultimate aspect, like that spoke about openness and emptiness and so on. And then the other two were more, I think, relative reality, one being understanding, clearly understanding action, cause and effect, karma, action, cause and effect, the relationship between what we do with our body, speech, and mind, and then what results, what follows in the near or far future. And the third one was that the practice of bodhicitta, the practice of the four immeasurables, generating love and compassion and so on, is a path out of samsara, whereas the indulging in the poisons is a path deeper into samsara.
Okay, great. That was excellent. Thank you so much. And Maria, did you have any comments on that at all?
No. No, I'm just glad that William summarized it so wonderfully.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Great, thank you, William. And so then we're going to be moving on tonight. We're going to be talking about right resolve. And that's the aspiration to act with correct intention and doing no harm. And then next week, we'll start to move into the ethical conduct group. Right speech, which is avoiding lying and harsh speech. Right action, not killing, stealing, or engaging in sexual misconduct. And 5, right livelihood, making a living in an ethical way. And then we'll move on to the last 3 that deal with mental discipline, or samadhi in Sanskrit. So samadhi is a Sanskrit word. So that would be right effort, acting with skillful thoughts, words, and deeds. Right mindfulness, being mindful of one's body, feelings, and thoughts. And right concentration, practicing skillful meditation. So then for tonight, we're going to be focusing on right resolve. And that conveys determination, heartfelt conviction, and persistence. So it's kind of taking that that right view that we kind of talked about last week and that William so beautifully summarized, and kind of moving forward with that, kind of putting it into action, into our resolve, into our intention. So that the first is the intention of harmlessness, and that's not causing pain, loss, or destruction to any living being. The second is intention of non-ill will, and that means giving up angry, punishing reactions towards other people, animals, and even plants, I read, which is interesting. And then the third is intention of renunciation. And this is the renunciation in the enchantment with the illusory nature of the world, which we talked about last week. And, you know, the kind of samsaric view of life. And you see the suffering embedded in the experience. And but you also see the happiness, peace, and love available in not chasing after pleasure or resisting pain. So then we've got a nice little quote there. If you let go a little, you will have a little happiness. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of happiness. And if you let go completely, you will be completely happy. So I thought that was a nice quote from one of the Theravadan masters, Ajahn Chah. So why don't we kind of go through these three kind of one at a time. Anybody have any comments or thoughts about the first one, the intention of harmlessness? So it looks like we have a fourth participant. Let's see who's there. Oh, Carolyn. Hello, Carolyn. Welcome. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no, that's okay. Were you with us last week, or this is your first time?
No, I'm sorry I missed last week. This is my first time with you.
Okay,
Yes.
well, welcome. You know, the way we do this is we just kind of go over the material, and then I welcome people to give comments or questions. So does anybody have anything they want to add about this intention of harmlessness? Okay, well, you know, it's fairly straightforward. It's just doing what we can, like resolving to not cause pain or harm to living beings. So, you know, it involves things like not killing insects. So if you have, you know, insects in your way, if they're in your home and you want to get rid of them, you put a glass over them and put a piece of paper under that and then take them outside. If you have an invasion of ants, rather than killing them, you can sprinkle cinnamon or peppermint oil, things like that. So basically doing what you can to avoid harming any beings. And, you know, occasionally we'll have mice or something that are a problem, and there's live traps available. So you can trap them live and then drive them a few miles away and let them go. So it's that kind of thing, you know, of course, not killing any human being, of course, or causing any intentional pain to a human being as well. So that's, you know, fairly straightforward. Then moving on to intention of non-ill will. That's not only taking life, but, you know, causing, you know, being angry and not controlling one's anger and letting that cause like a punishing reaction towards other beings. So, you know, being verbally abusive or, you know, causing, you know, someone to feel bad by, you know, making them feel guilty or whatever. Just causing, you know, unpleasant, unfriendly actions towards people. Or even animals, you know, sometimes people get angry and they kick the dog or whatever. So, you know, it's being kind even to the animals that are around you. Any comments on that one at all? Questions, comments about that one? Okay, those are both fairly straightforward. And then we come to the intention of renunciation. And this is renunciation it means it's becoming disenchanted with the illusory nature of the world. So we talked about that quite a bit last week, you know, what the illusory nature of the world is. And it's this quality that we have where we see ourselves as this separate entity that exists separate from the rest of the beings in the world and separate from our environment. But if we look a little more carefully and perhaps also through meditative experience, we see that there is definitely an interconnection between ourselves and the rest of the world, our environment and the other beings in the world. And then we're also seeing the suffering that's embedded in this experience. So we see that, you know, when we're not clear about that, we're not seeing ourselves as well integrated, we're seeing ourselves as separate and closed off, and, you know, we're in our own little shell of our ego, that there's definitely suffering that takes place because of that. And then we also want to see that the happiness and peace and love that's available to us as human beings is available when we're not chasing after these pleasures for ourselves or resisting the pain, but we're just, you know, being more present, more open, more clear about our situation. Anyone have any comments about that one? Intention of renunciation? Okay, I like to remember something that our teacher, Tartang Tulku, said, one of the earliest classes I took with him. He said, all you're being asked to give up in this path is your suffering. So sometimes, you know, different religious paths have, you know, more of a renunciation aspect to their practices. And especially too, like maybe if one were to follow the path of a monk or nun, then there's very strict rules you have to follow, and maybe more of a sense of renunciation. So like as an example, the monks and nuns, especially not in all traditions, but in many traditions, they don't eat anything after noon. So they can drink, but no food. So, you know, that's quite a hardship, I'm sure, to get used to. And, you know, many other things that they give up too. They're not allowed to wear jewelry or, you know, perfumes, things like that. So all these things that they give up is, you know, more of a renunciated type of life. But we as lay people are really just only asked to be giving up our suffering. So, and what causes the suffering? Well, the suffering is caused by our not understanding that, that we are integrated with the rest of the world. And we don't understand that when we act in negative ways, that we're going to have a negative result, you know, suffering. And that when we don't act with loving kindness and compassion and equanimity for our fellow beings, then also we will experience more pain. So that's just kind of the what it is we want to be kind of striving for and resolving for and setting our intentions on.
Yeah, if I look at the quote right below it together with this, it kind of implies that there's degrees of disenchantment. So possibly I can't renounce all enchantment all at once, black and white style, but I can lessen my disenchantment and become gradually more and more happy.
Yeah, I think that is the point. And so in a way, it's implying, okay, you know, even if, say, you can't be completely free. You can't completely give up everything. You could still start a little bit, you know, you give up a little bit of that enchantment or disenchantment, you might even say. And then you'll get some, you know, a good result. And if you can do a little more, then you're going to get even more of a result. And if you can really completely transcend this kind of samsaric world, then you'll get some very deep and profound experiences. So yes, you could say it's kind of implying, at least to me, it's not all or nothing. You know, it's like we can have degrees and we can have stages in our progress too. So I don't know, to me it's kind of encouraging that even if I'm still experiencing some suffering in life, I can keep moving a little bit more towards that completely free quality. Is that kind of what you were saying too, William?
Yeah, I think so. You know, we talked a little bit in the first class about how the word right might not be quite the correct word because it has implications in our Judeo-Christian Islamic culture about kind of black and white, right and wrong. So I looked up the Tibetan word that they use that's being translated as right, and it's yang dag. Dag means pure, but yang means like the process of refining. So it almost means like our view is can get better and better. Our intention or our resolve can get better and better. Like a gradual, like they refine gold, or like like anything. It's a progressive kind of thing.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful commentary on that term right, and how it can also have that kind of a progression quality to it, like we were talking about. Thank you. Very nice. Yeah, right is a little bit of a funny choice, but it's, I think, the best maybe we have for translation of that term. Any other comments about these right resolve questions?
I just have one comment about number 3. Just that last part of it, not chasing after pleasure or resisting pain, which are the causes of suffering. I think when I think about that, I think about it kind of on 2 levels. I mean, one is just very personal, like how I've been raised or how my lifestyle. But there's also something that I always come up against, and that's a cultural proclivity. You know, the culture that I live in, that we live in, it's all about chasing after pleasure and resisting pain. And so it's like you're kind of going against the stream here. But it's just something to keep in mind that is helpful to me, because it's not like all about myself. It's like my environment and the culture I live in, that I happen to live in right now. So that's all.
Yeah, no, you're so right about that. You know, I'm just thinking, if you think about the ads we see on television, right, that kind of really encourage us to, you know, chase after the pleasures, and, you know, the products that can help us to resist pain, say, that you're right, that's so prevalent in our culture. But I think if you take a moment and think, well, yes, that's what kind of how we're raised and what our culture is selling. But if you think, well, you know, when are times when I have felt really happy? You know, it's usually when you've been doing something for others, you know, so maybe you're taking care of your family, or you're making a donation to charity, or you're doing some charitable work. or, you know, whatever you can do that's kind of helpful for beings, even if it's, you know, petting your pet or giving them food or whatever, something simple like that. But I think it helps us to remember that, you know, sometimes when we just do these simple acts for others, that is really what gives us a deeper sense of happiness, rather than, you know, getting that new product that we see that we think we need or we want.
So it says not chasing after pleasure or resisting pain. So it's sort of saying that if you accept pain and experience it, somehow that helps.
Well, in some ways, yes, that is what it's saying. So it's not saying that you want to be taking on pain, you know. It's not saying, you know, you should be flogging yourself with the the whip, you know, like self-inflicted pain like that. But, you know, we all have pain that comes to us, you know. Maybe, you know, we're sick, you know, we have a cold, we're coughing and sneezing and got a headache. And, you know, sometimes there's the initial pain that we have from our circumstances, but then we can also aggravate it by being more resistant to it as well. So, you know, we can get angry that we've got this cold, and why did this happen? And oh, it was my friend that gave it to me, and why did he or she do that? It's kind of like that sort of thing. It's like if we can just kind of sit with the fact that, okay, we've got a cold, we've got some pain, it will most likely pass shortly, and just being a little more patient with it. I think that's what it's pointing to.
Like, so there's a distinction between the pain and suffering. It's just pain by not resisting it. We're actually experiencing or accepting what's actually happening. Just being more accepting of what's really occurring, and then just moving through it or something, but not building on it. So I guess suffering is just self-inflicted, right? It's building on it. It's not pain. There's a distinction between pain and suffering, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think what you're pointing to is exactly what this is pointing to.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, in human life, we're going to have pain. You know, that's just part of our human life. But if we start resisting it, it's like, you know, oh, I don't like that person, I'm not going to be around that person, we're pushing them away. Or, you know, I don't like this kind of experience, and, you know, I'm going to resist that, you know, even though it's coming right at me. And they're like, okay, I don't really like it when the sky is so dark. But, you know, what can get too much about it, you know. So yes, it's kind of more accepting what's going on in the world, in our lives, in ourselves, you know. It's kind of accepting, okay, you know, there's some pain to this human life, but you don't have to resist it. Sometimes resisting it makes it worse. So I think that's what, again, I think that's kind of what you're saying too. I'm just kind of agreeing with you.
Thank you. No, I mean, thank you for explaining further. Yeah, I guess it's that whole thing where you're not trying to control it. You're just moving with what is. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, you're not rejecting anything or judging it. You're just trying to truly be in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just even reading things like, even like facing one's own death, even, you know, like some of these enlightened masters, you know, they can, you know, just face it like, yeah, you know, this is just part of life, you know, you have life, you have a certain number of years, and then at a certain point, your time is up, and then it's time to go. And so, you know, even facing their own death, they don't resist it. You know, they just can accept it. And you know, that's kind of the ultimate pain, right, that we all face. And when we can, you know, be more open and just accepting of the situation, circumstances, it causes us less pain.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have any comments on any of these topics? Any of the three? Okay, then I'd like us to do a Kumne exercise next. And just putting up a symbol of one of the great beings named Manjushri. And he's the Bodhisattva, which means great being, Bodhisattva of wisdom. And he holds this sword that is said to be able to cut through ignorance. And so we're going to do a practice with his mantra after we do our Kumne. But we'll start with doing this Kumne exercise called flying. And William, you know this one because we've done this in one of our earlier classes. But it's one of my favorite of the Kumne exercises. So you want to go ahead and stand up. And we're going to be standing, excuse me, with our feet about hip distance apart and arms by our sides. And I'll just show you the practice first, and you can do it along with me. And then we're going to do it to each of the 5 directions. That's north, south, east, west, and the 5th is center. So you want to let your arms just gradually rise up from your sides. You can almost think of it as not really making an effort, it's just letting them float up from your sides. You want to keep your breath nice and deep and steady as you do these practices. And once your arms are overhead, you're going to have your hands so that the backs of the palms are together. And you're going to stretch up towards the sky. So you get a nice stretch through the whole spine. And you can take a nice deep breath and slowly let it out as the arms slowly float down to your sides. And this is a really nice exercise for releasing tension in the shoulders and the neck. Which is good if you've been at a computer a lot during the day. It also helps to integrate the body, the breath, and the mind so that, you know, our body energy and our breathing get integrated, and that helps the mind to relax and kind of flow, let the energy flow. So if you'd like to turn to the east direction in your home, and that's of course where the sun rises in the morning, you can do that. I'm going to keep facing towards the screen so that you can be sure to hear me and see me a little better. But if you'd like to go to each of the directions, it's a nice practice to do. And as we do the practice, I'm going to talk a little about the qualities in each direction as well. So go ahead and let your arms float up from your sides, palms facing down until they get up and then they're facing out. And then nice stretch up towards the sky. Feet really planted on the earth so you feel a good stretch through the whole spine. Deep breath into the belly and the chest, opening the chest. And slowly let it out as the arms slowly come down to your sides. So the east is where the sun rises in the morning. It's got a nice, fresh, sharp energy to it. The element is water, and the color is white, associated with this direction. And the emotion is anger, and when it becomes transformed, it becomes a mirror-like wisdom, or just deep kindness. All right, if you'd like, you can take a quarter turn to your right, and we'll be facing the south now. So as your arms come up, you can think of the beautiful warm quality of the sun in the southern direction. Bright yellow is the color, and the element is earth. Nice stretch up towards the sky, feet really planted on the earth. Feeling a nice stretch through the whole spine. Deep breath into the chest and the belly. And slowly let it out as the arms slowly come down. And the emotion in this direction is pride, and transformed it becomes equanimity. So seeing ourselves and all beings as equal and integrated, part of one integrated universe. So then you can take another quarter turn to your right if you'd like, and we can let our arms float up from our sides once again. And we're facing the west now. The color is red, and the element is fire. A nice stretch up towards the sky. Deep breath in the chest and belly, and slowly let it out as the arms slowly come down to our sides. So just in the same way that fire can be very destructive when it's unbridled like it is now, our emotions, our passions, our greed, once they're very strong, can be very destructive. But once they're transformed, they can become very strongly compassionate. So all that warmth that we have in grasping, we can kind of turn it into giving and be very generous and compassionate. So let's take one more quarter turn to our right, and we're facing the north. And as the arms come up, we can think of all the beautiful forests in the north, the color green, the element is oxygen, and we can send out our prayers to protect as many of the forests as we can in our wonderful state right now that's where so many, the beautiful trees are being burned. So a nice stretch up towards the sky. Deep breath into the belly and chest, and slowly let them out as the arms slowly come down. And the emotion in this direction is jealousy, and transformed it becomes something called all-accomplishing wisdom. So a very dynamic, active quality of helping all beings wherever they are in need. And we're going to do one last repetition facing the east. So if you want to take a quarter turn to the east. But we're going to be focusing on the center. So that means all the space above us and below us, and also deep in our own center of our being. So as we let our arms come up, we can think of the color of deep blue. That's the color in this direction. And the element is ether, or kind of the atmospheric quality. Nice stretch up towards our sky. Deep breath into the belly and the chest. And slowly let it out as the arms slowly come down to our sides. And the emotion in this direction is ignorance, and transformed it becomes our deep inner wisdom. you want, you can just kind of shake out a little bit. Let out any tension. You can shake your head, shake your hands, shake your arms, shake your shoulders, shake your hips, shake your knees, shake your feet. And just let go of any tension from the day, any worries, any fears. And just appreciate the fact that we're able to sit for a few minutes now and breathe. And experience some of this openness that we've been studying about and talking about, hopefully. So we'll go ahead and sit back down. And if you're sitting on a chair, that's fine. If you'd like to sit on a cushion on the floor, that's fine as well. And we're going to be sitting in what's called the 7 gestures posture. And the first is that the legs form a nice solid base for the body. And next is that the hands are on the knees. That's a meditation position. Or they can be also in the lap, left under the right. It's also a meditation position. Shoulders are relaxed. If you want, you can lift your shoulders up and then back and then down so that they're nice and low and relaxed. Chest is up and out a little bit, which helps to straighten the spine. Chin is tucked in slightly, which helps straighten the back of the neck. And the eyes are either closed or gazing gently on the ground in front of us, about 3 feet. And when we're not chanting, you can curl your tongue so that the tip of your tongue touches the upper palate at the top of the mouth. So, any questions about the posture at all? Or about the Kumne exercise we did? Or any questions about that before we start?
When you say that your hands could be on your knees, is it palms up or palms down?
Usually palms down.
Okay.
So yeah. Sorry, I'm not have this configured too well to be able to see. That's what it would be. Sometimes we do use the gesture of palms up, and that's a gesture of giving. So if you'd like, you can also use that as well from time to time. But generally for meditation, the hands are palms down. So we'll go ahead and chant this mantra a few times, and then we'll have a silent meditation period. So I'll go ahead and chant once, and then so you can learn how we do that, and then you can join in. And it usually works better for people to mute because, you know, of the reverberation of sound. So you might want to go ahead and mute your computer as well. Om Rapa Sanadi 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 Om Rapasanadi. 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 Di 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 di. So Manjushri is, when he's not golden like he is shown in the statue, is a beautiful golden orange color. So if you'd like, you can imagine beautiful golden orange light coming into your body through the crown chakra at the top of your head and flowing into the senses, relaxing the sense of sight, the eye area, relaxing all the muscles around the eye and the face, and around the ears, the neck, the throat, the nose and mouth where the breath comes through. And then also the light can flow into the shoulders and neck, relaxing that area. And the light can flow into the arms, excuse me, the upper arms and the elbows, flowing into the forearms and the hands. And as the hands relax, it helps to relax the whole body, because we have acupressure points, acupuncture points in the hands that relate to all the organ systems in the body. And even the fingers can receive this lovely light. And the light can also flow into the torso and transform all of the organs, turning them into the body of light as well. So our lungs and our breathing apparatus can all relax into this light. Our heart can become relaxed and calm and beating slowly and steadily. Our digestive organs can relax. And all of our pelvic area organs can relax. The hips and thighs relax as the light flows into the legs, the knees and the calves, ankles, finally into the feet. And again, as we relax our feet, it helps to relax the whole body, because we have points there as well to all the organ systems. And finally, our toes. If you want, you can wiggle your toes a little bit to let the light flow into them. And we can also let the light expand beyond our own body, spreading out into the universe, touching all beings with this lovely golden orange light that can heal all of the suffering in the world, at least for a short time. And take away the suffering of hunger, thirst, sickness, incarceration, all the ailments that beings experience can be transformed through this beautiful golden light. And we'll just sit silently now for a few minutes. And if you do have thoughts, you can go ahead and let them just come and go, almost like bubbles in a glass of water, and just kind of bubble up and pop open. Don't have to chase after one after another thoughts like we usually do. And if it helps, you can focus on your breath, breathing in nice, fresh, clear energy, and breathing out any tension, worries, anxiety, pain. Breathing in the positive, letting go of the negative. If you want, you can remember to curl your tongue so that the tip touches the upper palate, and that helps you breathe evenly through both nose and mouth at the same time, which is a nice, quiet, relaxing way to breathe. So to conclude our practice, we will chant Om Ahum 3 times. So Om relates to the crown chakra at the top of the head and the body energy. Ah relates to the throat chakra and the breath. And Hum relates to the heart chakra and the mind. So this is kind of a way of saying with body, breath, and mind, body, speech, and mind, we're offering any kind of small benefit we might have created through our practice, any positive energy. We're offering it to all of the beings in the universe. So does anyone have any comments or questions about the practices we did or any of the material we went over tonight? Okay, then we can move on to the practices to work on this week. So if you are inclined to write, it's a nice thing to do. It helps to, I think, make the concepts a little more part of your real life. But if you're more just the kind of person that likes to observe and not so much write, then please do that. And I'd like it if you could focus on the quality we worked with this week, the right resolve or right intention. And, you know, notice experiences of harmlessness, you know, not harming beings. If you're not used to saving insects in your home, try that, see what it's like. Note how it makes you feel. And also, you might want to, make an effort not to do any acts that bring ill will to any beings, any kind of harsh thoughts or words or actions towards others, trying to avoid that as much as possible. And then the third one is the renunciation. And that's really the important one. If we can renounce our attachment to this fictitious being, we sometimes call it the ego or samsara, you know, this kind of web that we find ourselves in that seems so real, this shell of a being. If we can loosen that up a little bit, see how we really are more interconnected with our environment and with our fellow beings than we often remember to pay attention to. And also, it might be an interesting practice to notice what really brings you joy, what really brings deep happiness to you. And also what really brings you suffering. So, because this path, this Eightfold Path, it's all about helping us to experience more joy and happiness and less suffering in our life. And we, excuse me, we talked about this, that we can't escape pain as human beings, but we can escape the the added pain that comes from resisting what's going on in our lives. And we can just be more accepting of what's going on. And then we can also, excuse me, be aware of what really brings us deep happiness. And usually that's when we're doing something that's benefiting others and, you know, bringing some joy to others. It can be as simple as cooking a meal for other people. But, you know, when we're offering our energy, our heart, our thoughts for others, that generally is what can bring us the most joy and happiness. And then when we're avoiding doing harsh actions or speech or thoughts against others, that also contributes to our lack of suffering and pain and adds to our joy. So it's just, you know, helpful to start noticing those in your daily life and making note of them. So any other questions or comments on anything we've gone over tonight or in the previous class? Okay, well then, I think that's it for tonight. We're ending a little early. We didn't have too many questions and comments tonight. But thank you very much for joining me. And then I'll look forward to seeing you next week.